You're watching NWCN, Northwest Extra.
There's now a plan to move Luna, the wayward whale, back to the San Juan Islands. The plan is similar to Springer's move back to Canadian waters last year. But as King 5's Glenn Farley reports, Luna could be hitting the highway instead of the water.
Luna has worn out his welcome in Canada's Nootka Sound. He's been way too friendly with people and boats, hurting himself and, according to Canadian authorities, become a threat to public safety. The panel of about 20 whale scientists have a plan to move him south to rejoin the rest of ELPA.
Everything's going to have to go right for it to work, but the payoff is so large that if it does work, it's worth the trouble.
David Bain with the University of Washington is a panel member. He says the first step will be to capture and hold Luna for a week inside a net pen like this one used on Springer a year ago.
What we're looking at is holding him temporarily in Nootka Sound and doing medical tests to make sure he doesn't have any diseases that would pose a risk to the wild whales.
Jeff Foster handled the capture of Springer over a year ago. An expert in whale captures, he says with the larger Luna, it will be different.
Been talking about trying to catch him in the pen and manipulate him from there. Where with Springer, we put a soft tail line on her tail flukes, and we were able to manage her at that point.
After his time in the pen, Luna will be moved either by boat or overland by truck to the south end of Vancouver Island to be closer to his pod. There he will be in another net pen for perhaps a week, waiting for his pod to show up, much like the successful release of Springer.
Definitely within acoustical range, and then let him listen to that pod, and then hopefully, we can release him at that time.
But what if there is no reunion? What if Luna goes back to harassing people in boats? Could he end up in an aquarium? That's a concern.
If this doesn't work, we cannot allow a group that's involved with this to then have the right to go sell this animal to a marine facility.
So when could we finally see this whale on the move? David Bain suggests perhaps by the end of October. In Seattle, Glenn Farley, King 5 News.
The Canadian government says the hundreds of thousands of dollars it will take to move the whale will have to be raised privately. They are also concerned about Luna's current health.
If we are going to go out and try to live capture this L98 Luna in order to safeguard its own health and safety, as well as to protect public property, then we've got to be aware of some of the risks at the other end.
We have another important guest with us now in our studio. Joining us is Fred Felleman with the Orca Conservancy. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
South of Vancouver Island, that's where Luna would be released. Is that the optimal place for Luna to be released, to be reunited with his pod?
It depends if you had all the time in the world, or if you really had sensed there was an urgency, which I believe there is.
Let's assume there is an urgency.
To wait for the whales to come to Luna, I think, is a mistake. We have the ability to move Luna to the presence of the whales. The problem, I believe, is that the U.S. federal government doesn't want Luna on their side of the border, don't want to take Canada's problem on. Rather than seeing this whale as an asset to the recovery of the population, I think our government is seeing this as an encumbrance.
So you're telling me now that Canada has stepped up to the plate, and the United States now is backing off and abandoning Luna.
I think the United States is making it more difficult, rather than facilitating it. The fact that we've had, Senator Cantwell appropriate hundreds of thousands of dollars towards the recovery of this population, rather than coming to the table and saying, look, we have resources to bring to bear, they're saying, it's your problem, keep it on your side of the world.
Okay, so is South Vancouver Island close enough for this to be a successful
Well, it's
operation?
Certainly worlds better than Nootka Sound, where there'd be no chance to be in acoustical contact. But to think the whales spend more time on the U.S. side of the border, along the west side of San Juan Island, where the salmon heading to the Fraser River are pushed against. They will travel out the Strait of Juan de Fuca, but last winter, for the past several winters, in fact, they spend most of their time in Puget Sound following the winter runs of chum and Chinook, winter running Chinook. So right now, this whale could be like Springer. They said a couple of weeks. It was a month before we got Springer out of the net pen. I really think after the first week of screening for health in Nootka Sound, we should be moving that whale directly into the path of L67 subgroup, his mother.
So you're trying to step this up.
And just move it and let it go.
You're trying to step this up, and yet you need some time to raise money, because estimates are that you need about $200,000, and right now you have zero.
Well, one of the other things is, though, the longer you keep the animal in captivity, the more oversight, security, animal care, feeding and watering, that costs money. It actually would be by expediting the process, you save money. And you actually give the animals more time to associate with each other while we have good weather to observe the social integration process.
People out there who want to make contributions want to make sure that they get the contributions to the right place. Where is the right place?
Well, there's one website set up exclusively for this purpose. It's the reuniteluna.com website. And they would be able to best, I think, make sure that the whale gets the money most directly.
Fred Felleman with the Orca Conservancy, thanks so much for keeping us up to date.
Our pleasure. We look forward to doing the blow-by-blow once again.
Very interesting. Greg?
All right, thank you, Cam. Now to tonight's extra credit question. What is the average life expectancy of a wild orca? A, 30 years, B, 15 to 20 years, or C, 50 years? The answer is C, 50 years. That is for males and females. Actually, it varies quite a bit between the two. The oldest known orcas are two females still alive, born in 1910 and 1911. The oldest male was born in 1951.